Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Brad here with Mild Mannered EDC. And today we're going to do another installment of a knife Bartitsu. Now that's right. That is what we call a knife comparison video here on the Mild Mannered channel. But yeah, that's sort of just how we roll, right? So a knife Bartitsu. Now, I really had a lot of fun doing the last one. Well, the first one, and I've been looking forward to doing another one, and this one has been on my mind for a while. These particular knives have been on my mind. So I thought, let's just go ahead and get this done, Brad. So that's what we're going to do today. Now, these three knives in particular, or I'm sorry, these two knives are compelling, I think, for three primary reasons. One is their size, two is their cost or price, and three is they are one-handed slip joints. That's right. So we've got here the Spyderco Urban in this corner and the Kizer ZipSlip in this corner. These are two very, very interesting knives, and I am very much a fan of, I guess a fourth thing I could say is they're both sort of modern traditionals, right? These are modern traditional slip joints, and I really think that one-handed opening slip joints are an underdeveloped part of the knife market. So I really would like to see makers. How many reallys did I just put in there? Really? I don't know. I would very much like to see makers do more in the one-handed slip joint category, because I think they can be very useful whether you're traveling, particularly if you're traveling international, but just as a different type of a way to mix it up in your collection and in your everyday carry. I just think they offer a very compelling option. You never really seem to have to worry about, going through different jurisdictions. Even here in the United States, you can go from one city to the next and it can have different knife laws. So with that, I think these offer a really compelling option for folks. And on top of that, I think they're just fun. And I really would, like I said, like to see more of these put together. So I think I had 3 or 4 more reallys in there. So without much further ado, let's talk about how I think we'll go ahead and do this particular Bartitsu. We'll do some specs, and I know it can be a little tedious. We'll do a sort of a spec check for each of them, or a spec rundown for both of them. I know that could be a little tedious, but I think it is very important to sort of lay out the framework of what we're dealing with these two particular knives. And then we'll go into talking about their blades and their blade steels, as well as their scales and hardware, the action, the all-important action, which I think is very much at the heart of this comparison. And then just some final wrap-up comments, ergos, et cetera, price, and manufacturing location. So that'll be kind of how we end the video. And then we can decide, is there going to be a clear winner in this? Is there not? Do you agree with my assessments or not? Whatever. So let's go ahead and get started with a rundown of the specs, and then I'll do some comparisons, and then we'll get underway. So hang on with me here as we do these. So we've got a blade length here on the Urban of 2.56 inches, a blade length of 2.84 inches in the ZipSlip. We've got a cutting edge of 2.25 inches on the Urban and 2.37 on the ZipSlip. We have a blade thickness of 0.11 here on the Urban and 0.87 on the ZipSlip. Sorry there, I just spaced out for a second. The handle length on the Urban is 3.45 inches. The handle length on the ZipSlip is 3.99 inches. You've got handle thickness here of 0.38 on the Urban and 0.46 on the ZipSlip. That gives you overall tip to tails here on the two knives, Urban at 6.06 and the ZipSlip at 6.83. Now, weight is also very interesting between the two. So the Urban is 2 ounces on the money. So there you go, 2.0 ounces. And the ZipSlip is 3.16, so a whole ounce and change heavier than the Urban. And I think, and yes, while I acknowledge this as we were going through those specs, that yes, the ZipSlip is slightly larger, but I think there are other reasons for why this weighs more than the Urban. And we'll talk about those as we go through this. So let's maybe do a couple of size comparisons just so we can see what we're dealing with here. So we've got the Urban. I guess I'll do them by pivot as best I can. So we've got the Urban, we've got the ZipSlip. Here is a Benchmade bug out, something we use often on this channel. Here is a rat number 1. And then how about a traditional, another slip joint, the Victorinox Swiss Army knife. And how about one more just for fun?
But isn't it kind of fun to look in each other's eyes?
I don't know what else. Oh, let's do this. Another slip joint. The Case Mini Trapper. So there you go. So that's what we're looking like here on size comparisons. Yeah. All right, so let's talk blades. The blades on these two knives, both of them are drop points. Both of them are flat grinds. This the Urban has a satin finish, and the ZipSlip has a stonewash finish. Both very attractive. I think, I definitely think the Spyderco has that sort of traditional leaf-shaped blade. Hard to argue with. It's very effective. I actually like the leaf-shaped blade. I know some people are less of a fan, but I like it quite a bit. I do think the ZipSlip here has a very unique looking blade. I think it's attractive. I like the swedge. I think the stonewash is kind of cool. It's just in general, the ZipSlip logo is kind of neat. It's just a very interesting and unique blade shape overall. Both of them came ground pretty well. I think the Urban is a bit slicier personally, but I don't know. I could be wrong about that. They feel, I don't even know if I could say the Urban's better. They both feel pretty darn good. I think this one feels a little thicker behind the edge, and that's probably partly because they didn't start that flat grind until about here, whereas it starts way up at the top here on the Urban, but it is what it is. Now, this particular Urban is in AEBL. This was a sprint run, and so let's just pretend, for the sake of the Bartitsu, that it's in N690, because that is the standard blade steel that the Urban comes in. That is also the blade steel that the Kizer is in, N690. So that was another reason I thought these were very compelling. If you just bought sort of the base models, you'd get both of them in N690, which is a fine steel. Nothing wrong with it. In fact, it's probably one of the better budget steels out there. So there you go. That's where we sit with blades. I will say the Urban has a bit of jimping right here. There is no jimping whatsoever on the ZipSlip. And I guess lastly, traditional Spidey hole here, and then this sort of weird hole on the Kizer, and we'll talk about that later. So that's where so I guess that wraps up blades. There you go. I finished a little early there, I guess. So scales and hardware. So the scales on the Urban, it's just a nice classic FRN, fiberglass reinforced nylon. I actually think this is one of my favorite textures of that Spyderco uses. I like it better than the Delica and the lightweights that they've got out there, whether it's the Chaparral or the Sage or whatever, or paramilitary or any of their different. I like this one the best. So I think it's, this one comes in brown or this weird sort of deserty color, coyote, I think they called it maybe, for the sprint run, but the standard is black. So you'd get this black FRN. So yeah, I think, it's perfectly fine. Yeah. On the ZipSlip, you get G10. And the G10 on the ZipSlip, if my camera will focus, there you go, is done really, really well, actually. I have to compliment Kizer on how they did this G10. It's super smooth, but it's also grippy. It doesn't feel, even with the finger choil, but it just doesn't feel, it feels like there's something there. There's some texture that it's just not sliding in and out of your hand, easily at all. And like I said, I think it's done very well. It's very attractive. One of the other differences is the Spyderco, as I mentioned, apart from the sprint run, I think these only come pretty much just in black. The ZipSlip is available in a few colors. So, take that for what it's worth. Now, I will say, as far as the scales go, part of my thinking about why this is so much lighter than the ZipSlip is that scale material. The FRN, I think, is just inherently lighter than G10. I also think there's an issue around the back, the locks bar here. it's definitely thicker on the ZipSlip, and I think that also just inherent, and it's got, stainless steel liners, whereas this does not. So, I mean, I think the construction on this is heavier. And in fact, with all that construction, they still managed to make it 3 ounces, 3.16, whatever, 3 ounces, which is pretty good. But this 2 ounces really is substantial. And I don't think there's it doesn't feel any less sturdy or secure in use. So, in fact, in some ways, it feels more so. So there you go. That's what I would say about the scales. A couple other things to mention just on hardware as we're talking about it. So the Urban uses a wire pocket clip. It has pretty darn deep carry. The ZipSlip has a very deep carry pocket clip. Both of them, obviously, with screws that are recessed and countersunk. Both slide in and out of the pocket fairly effortlessly. In fact, this is one of the knives I carry a lot in my slacks and things like that, which have kind of those different angles, if that even makes sense, in pockets than jeans, rather. Jeans kind of have that. Anyways, I think you know what I mean. I hope you know what I mean. Even if you don't, whatever.
What are you talking about?
But, Spyderco did its classic, let the clip land right on the flat, smooth part of their Spyderco logo. So that's really nice. The G10 is very smooth. I do compliment Kizer on this. This is one of the best clips I've seen Kizer ever do, actually. Not only is it very deep carry, it's completely flush with the screws, countersunk. It's nice and springy, and there are absolutely no hot spots with this clip. Slight hot spots with the wire clip, but that's pretty consistent, it seems like, with all wire clips. It doesn't really bother me because it's so rounded, but I think it can bother some people. The other major difference, though, is this is an ambidextrous knife in the sense, well, in all senses, because this is a tip-up right side, left side carry, whereas the ZipSlip, while ambidextrous in opening, is not ambidextrous in carry. Now, it is tip-up, but it is only right-hand carry. So take it or leave that. It's a little more versatility here with the Spyderco. So that takes us to action. And now, like I said, that was sort of the centerpiece of why these two knives got into a little bit of a Bartitsu with each other. So as I mentioned earlier, these are both one-handed slip joints, which I just love. And they both do their thing, but they do it differently. So let's start with the Spyderco. So the Spyderco, in a lot of ways, has a very traditional slip joint action. As you open it, you get that half stop. There you go. And then you kind of move it on up its way. And it does the same thing in reverse, right? Goes halfway, stops, and it closes. And again, you can do that all with one hand, very smoothly, very easily. No real danger of getting your hands guillotined or anything like that. With this action, I notice you have to be pretty darn deliberate with the Spyderco, both in opening and closing. It has a very firm slip joint action, which I like a lot. I think it's very satisfying just from a pure weirdo knife thing to say. As you're opening it, it's got that nice click, or the 2 clicks to open, and the same in the closing. I mean, you can just hear that clack. I think it's got a very, very good action. In fact, I think it's one of the best modern slip joint actions that there is. Now, the ZipSlip. Also, one hand openable, right? That was the point of this. It has a very different action, as I noted. So with the Spyderco, as I mentioned, you had this sort of half stop, right? Where it kind of clicks right at about 90 degrees. The ZipSlip does not. It does one of those. Why? I have no idea. And frankly, it's weird. I don't get what that's about. Now, it then, clicks right back over. It also, one of the other major differences, the ZipSlip has, and so this is a Mike Vagnino design. I think you can see that. There you go, which is cool. And I definitely like the logo up there. I know Ray Laconigo does that a lot too. And it's just, it's neat. It's classy. I think it's one of the best places to put a maker's mark. But the other sort of trick with the ZipSlip, and I think this is specific to Vagnino's design, is as it's opening, pay attention up here. Oops, geez, sorry. Pay attention up here. That's right. What's missing? The bar isn't lifting up at all. It's all internal. The movement is all internal on this, which I think is actually really cool. It's really neat. It's different. And let me show you what I mean by that. So as I'm opening, come on, focus for me. As I'm opening the Spyderco, there you go. You can see that lift. Oh, this camera. You can watch the top here. Hopefully you can see it lift up there, right? And then as there you go. It's not flush anymore. And then as it finishes, it slides back down. There you go. Sorry for my camera being funky there, but you get the picture. Is one better than the other? I don't know. I don't know that it even matters, frankly, but it's there. And it's different. I think it's done really well here. The problem I have with this is once you get it open, and I'll talk about the opening in a minute, but once you get it open, as I mentioned here, very firm, even without your finger in the choil, it's not, you have to be very deliberate to get back to that half stop. This, yeah. Yep, that's not great. And, I don't know. I watched other videos, Geared Towards Gear did a great video on this when he first got him. He just hated him, and I think it immediately returned him. and I think he just hated that action. And, I think to a degree, Sean's right. I mean, it's an annoying, weird little action there, and it doesn't feel very secure. It just feels off. Now, is it dangerous? Is there anything functionally wrong with it? I don't think so. And primarily, I don't think so because it's got this finger choil, and they both have a finger choil, right? I think that's the other thing. We'll talk about that in ergos. They both have the finger choil, and when you're in that finger choil position, this isn't closing on you. I mean, it still is doing this, whereas this one is not doing that. But I just don't see the danger there. Where I do see a little bit of an issue is as you close this, wow, it comes way down there and it kind of flings shut. And if your hands are kind of anywhere like this, you're going to get nailed. Simple as that. And it comes with enough force, it springs shut with enough force that it's going to nail your fingers. Whereas with this, right, I mean, if this closes with your fingers there halfway, one, it's a very controlled sort of halfway stop, but, you're not getting nailed either. So it's a difference. The other difference here is the Spidey hole, as always, tried and true, very effective for one finger opening, one hand opening. This has a funky little hole, and it's just not quite super comfortable to use. And in fact, I noticed that it was actually easier for me to flick it open at that half stop and then finish it off with the thumb. I don't know that that's ideal. It's definitely, it's something I ended up doing more often than not, but, so whatever. I wish it would almost be like, I know it wouldn't look probably good with the aesthetics of this, but if they had flipped this shape around so that the rounded part was at the top instead of the flat part, I think this would be a more comfortable and easier to open knife. But when you combine that issue with the weak locking detent or whatever you want to call that, the walk and talk, this just isn't doing that at all. I mean, even a Swiss Army knife, which doesn't have a half stop, right? Swiss Army knives, wow, I just about sliced my thumb open right there. Swiss Army knives come flying shut, and we all have probably cut ourselves with Swiss Army knives. Even it has a more secure feeling than this. So, on some level, I don't really get that. So on that level alone, I give the Urban a big win in action just because it's just a much more refined, straightforward, nice, satisfying action that feels safe, good click, good sound, and it just gets the job done. Whereas this feels a little more funky. You have to be a little more mindful. I mean, it's just, maybe I'm just being weird with it, but yeah, I don't know. It just feels really strange to me. Yeah, maybe it's fun. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too hard on it. I'm just trying not. Maybe I'm. I don't know. So there you go. So on the action, I definitely think I give it to the Urban on that point. So other little things I will mention: ergonomics. Ergos are very, very good with both knives. I mean, Sal Glesser, come on, he knows how to do ergos. This likewise, in fact, I would almost even say, apart from the action being funky, the ergos on this might even be a little better. One, it's a little bit bigger, fits your hand maybe just slightly better than this one, which is so much thinner. But again, I think that's because you get that lightweightitude with it, which I think is good. But man, this clip is just done really well. I mean, it just feels really good in the hand. So does this, don't get me wrong. I mean, I love this. There's a little bit, though, of ramming your thumb, and I have relatively small hands. So if you have bigger hands, I could see how this might not be as ideal as something a little more straightforward like this. But again, just by doing that, I'm pushing the blade. I don't know. So from an ergo standpoint, maybe a slight win or a slight edge, to the ZipSlip, but they're both very, very good with ergos. They're both excellent. And as far as my hands are concerned, for what they're worth, I think they both work very, very, very well. So there you go. So those are kind of the major pieces. The last little bits I'll notice, since we're doing this, made in Magnago, Italy, one of the rare Italian-made Spydercos, which is pretty cool. ZipSlip, obviously made in China. That's where Kizer is. That's where they make their knives. Doesn't really matter to me one way or another, but it might matter to you. But neither are American-made, so keep that in mind. The Urban comes in at about $63 on Blade HQ, and again, that's with that N690 steel. So we're pretending, remember, about this not being an AEBL. And the ZipSlip is $69. So like I said earlier, they're within $6 of each other. So very, very similar in price. I think these are really interesting knives, both of them. They both offer, I think, something, and they both do certain things really, really well. Everything from aesthetics to sizes to weight to cutting ability, action. Like I said, I think there's a pretty clear winner on action. There's also a pretty clear winner on weight between the two. But by and large, very, very compelling, competitive knives that I think are, I really, like I said earlier, wish makers would invest a little more time into the one-hand open and close side of the modern slip joint market. I'd like to see more come out. I know there are others out there, but these two are the two I have. And so you're getting the comparison between these two. But I also think these were very suited for a comparison with each other. So you could also argue maybe the UK PK would have been a better, I don't know. But I like the Urban better than the UK PK, and that's just me. So there you go. This is the Bartitsu between the Urban and the ZipSlip. For me, in this particular Bartitsu, I think I give the win overall to the Urban, both for lightweight, overall construction, and most importantly for me in this issue is the action. This action is just way superior. So for me, that trumps a lot of these other things. It's also a little less money, which, whatever. So I give the win, I think, on this one to the Spyderco. It definitely threw the pocket sand in the eyes of the ZipSlip.
Pocket sand!
Now, this is not to say this is a bad knife by any stretch of the imagination. I don't believe it is. I think it's a fine knife. It's just, maybe it's for you, maybe it's or not. Maybe this doesn't bother you. It bothers me a little bit. I do think the uniqueness of the locking magnet, the lock bar here is cool. But, and like I said, the ergos are great. I think the pocket clip is fantastic. They did a really fine job with that. Overall, just a very well-constructed knife. It also has those cool pivots, which I've told you before. I like the old school Kizer pivots. I know a lot of people don't, but I do. So there you go. But yeah, so, I don't know. What do you think? I want to hear down in the comments. I know this is a long video. These Bartitsus, they take a little while. This isn't just a punch and run, right? This is in it to talk seriously about these things. So thanks for bearing with me if you've managed to sit here. Wow, 23 minutes into this video. But I think these are it's worthy of that level of conversation. I think they're fun. And let me know down in the comments. Do you like these Bartitsus? Do you not? Do you like these two knives? What do you think about modern slip joints? Anything. Let's just have a conversation. So with that, most importantly of all, stay safe out there. Be mild-mannered to each other, and all the best.